And welcome back once again to another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I am Sean Meyers, joined by co-host Justin Lowery here on a Thursday night. And Justin, with our new format of talking Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, everything in the wrestling industry in 30 minutes or so, this is going to be one of the most jam-packed shows that I think we are going to have in recent memory and probably for the next several months to come. Just a really crazy week, and we're going to get into things specifically, but between Raw being one of the more memorable Raws in recent memory, SmackDown having some notable developments, and then Evolution upcoming this weekend, and then the decision today concerning Crown Jewel. The wrestling industry, in terms of news, I don't think has been busier in many, many months.
Yeah, let's get to it.
We will begin with Raw, and Justin, I'll say this about Raw. It was probably one of the most memorable shows that I've seen in years, and I think that when they do, Raw 2000 or however, the next milestone, that a lot from this show will be discussed. I think there's two things that are always going to stand out in our minds. The first was for terrible circumstances, and it was really a stunner with Roman Reigns. He comes out and gets booed immediately. He's dressed casually, which already caught my attention. He comes out to start the show off, and he's in the ring, and he's sort of, indicating that he's not able to live up to the hype that he'd created about being a fighting champion who would be there each and every week. And there was some speculation with about maybe that day or the prior day that he might not be able to compete at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, but there wasn't a real good explanation as to why. Well, we found out he has, I guess, a relapse of leukemia, which apparently he had about 11 years ago before he joined WWE. No one knew about this as far as I know. Not only did they not realize he had it initially, but no one, including some of the superstars he's close to on Raw, had any idea he was making this announcement. Just a stunner. It's probably the worst possible news that could have come out in all of wrestling this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on this, show before saying my disdain for the character of Roman, but as he pointed out, his name is Joe, and the man is battling leukemia. When he came out in street clothes, I thought it was weird too, but I also did see the reports that it was being reported that he was possibly injured. And when he came out like that, I'm thinking, oh, man, okay, he's injured. He's probably coming out saying he's got to drop the title. And next thing you know, he's saying he has leukemia. And I was like, well, you never want to hear anybody has cancer. That really sucks for him. Hopefully they caught it early. If you catch leukemia early, he is a very
well. I guess the first time around, he was able to get past it fairly quickly. I'm sure, obviously it wasn't easy, but it seemed like, 11 or so years ago, it didn't linger long term. I don't know, second time around, if maybe it's worse.
Right. Well, I mean, being in Pittsburgh like me and you are, we all know James Conner's story, who's a Pittsburgh Steeler, went to Pitt. He had leukemia, and I think within 6 months, he was kind of back at it. He was cured. He was back at it.
And he was around the same age as Roman when he first had it.
Right. Now, I don't know if it comes back a second time, what that entails. I mean, I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about it. Of course, he's probably going to get the best medical care possible. How long he's going to be out, who knows? I mean, the main thing is him getting better.
It's interesting you said that, because I see all these tweets and everyone saying, man, when he comes back, fans are going to, respect him more than ever. Yes, that you want to think positive, but people were just assuming that he's going to be back in wrestling, and I know he said that.
And that's how I caught myself there.
Right. It's not a guarantee, and for people to assume that's going to happen is really just taking this too lightly, I think. I mean, his number one goal should be to get back to living a healthy life. If wrestling's not in that future, so be it.
Right. And I mean, of course, people tweeted out, which it crossed my mind, but I would never say it publicly, it's not really an issue. Is, man, when he does come back, they want him to be the face. He's going to get cheers all the way around, because beating cancer, it's he's going to be set. But it's not 100% that he's going to be able to wrestle again. He might be able to beat it, but what type of toll is this going to take on his body? Is he going to be the same guy after this that he was before this? I mean, because chemo and stuff really, really takes a toll on somebody's body. And to wrestle 300 days out of the year, I mean, that's pretty intense. You know, who knows what the future holds for him?
And the other thing about it, and you and I have been around long enough to remember all of the real tragedies that happened in WWE and in wrestling in general. Obviously the Chris Benoit situation, a few days later we found out that was completely different, but you think Eddie Guerrero, you think even Owen Hart, but that was different because those guys had passed, and so they're honoring the memory. I don't ever remember something where there was an active person who had to come out here and give a speech like this where, they're the one breaking the news, but you don't know if they're going to be back or not. And this is more than, again, neck injuries are very serious. That's ended careers. But this is more, I think, severe and scary potentially than something like a neck injury that ends a career.
Well, this isn't an injury where someone could diagnose the problem in a timetable. Hey, you can be back in 9 to 12 months, 6 to 8 months. I mean, this is cancer. This is life-threatening. This isn't an injury. This is not career-threatening. This is life-threatening.
Right. So, even if he had said, oh, my career's over because of my neck, that would have been awful, but it would not have elicited the same type of feelings.
Right. I mean, cancer, everybody hates cancer. I mean, it's a sucky thing. I don't know really what to say. I mean, hopefully he gets better, and it's hard to speculate on what's to come because there's too many unknowns.
If nothing else, it certainly, I think, put wrestling in perspective for all the fans and for the wrestlers alike.
I will say, it's glad to see, people today in society aren't always the nicest, but as soon as he, told everyone what happened, the boos stopped. People realized this wasn't, a storyline. Like, this was, okay, a real man who has cancer. This is real stuff. This isn't.
It was, it was like silence for about a minute, and then they started to rally behind him.
Right,
which, that was.
I think people had to take a second, take in what they just heard, comprehend it, and then, realize that this was real life.
So that happens to kick off the show, and I'll be honest, like the next hour plus, it just felt like, who even cares?
I'm glad you said that. I felt like when Finn came out next, I went, man, talk about having to follow something.
And I'm willing to bet, honestly, Finn found out only when Roman cut that promo.
Right. Yeah, like how, okay, you just hear that, I don't know if they're close or, if they're friends or whatnot, but a co-worker of yours you find out is dealing with cancer. Hey, all right, now go out in front of a sold-out crowd and, do your thing.
Right. So they have that reaction. And then this is where I think it's sort of, on the borderline of exploitative, although I personally am okay with this scenario. The main event is Ambrose and Rollins, which are, in a sense, still the Shield. They're two-thirds of the Shield along with Roman. They're wrestling for the tag team titles, which might have been the case whether this news came out or not with Roman. They might have had the same main event for all we know. But it was those two against the champs, Ziggler and McIntyre. And the whole story is they're doing it for Roman. And that is legitimate. I mean, there's no doubt that I'm sure that they were wrestling with Roman in mind. That being said, what happens is they win the titles, which maybe not shocking, but now you have new champs again. And all of a sudden, they finally do what people would have speculated. Dean Ambrose turns on Seth Rollins. And it was, the reaction in the crowd was unlike anything I've seen, because nowadays, turns, heel, or face get pops from the crowd. This was just almost the same reaction as when Roman broke the news, and it was just silence and just disbelief on the look of the audience. How could this happen? How could Dean do this tonight? Did WWE do this probably because they knew of the emotion in that arena? Maybe. I think they sped up what was going to happen at some point anyway. So I'm okay with it because I don't think Roman really wasn't involved in this. You were sort of playing off of the emotions, but it's not like Roman was being attacked to get someone heat or anything like that. It really is between Seth and Dean, and it's a storyline that was going to happen anyway. I'm okay with it. Your thoughts on, one, how they handled it, and two, what this means going forward?
I'm completely fine with it. And actually, when I saw it happen, the first thing that came to my mind was smart. Like the first, I'm like, It was easy. And anybody who has a problem with it, honestly, then just stop watching wrestling.
Because they did not involve Roman at all, really, in this, right?
Why watch wrestling if you're that easily offended? People are way too easily offended. People look for stuff to be upset about. It's wrestling. It was smart. It's supposed to draw emotions. It's so hard to draw actual emotions in wrestling today because people are aware of the scriptedness and what's going to happen and this and that. It was perfect. It was smart. I get it. All reports said that he was supposed to turn around Survivor Series. They moved it up a month. Did they capitalize on something? Absolutely, they did. They knew what they were doing, but it's wrestling. That's what you do in entertainment. I'm sure Roman's fine. It's nothing offensive. People relax, and now they can build a story around it. They probably, if they use if they use Roman's name in this feud, maybe there's more distaste for it.
Well, and I think that they might because that's how this company operates. But
that's what wrestling uses real life situations all the time. Was it Paige and Charlotte who used Reed Flair's death in a promo? To me, that's worse than
right. No, I agree. That's what.
And again, if the people involved are okay with it, then we should be okay with it. Who are we to say that this person, shouldn't be okay with it?
Real quick here, it creates an interesting scenario. Ambrose and Rollins are the tag team champions now. I'm assuming that they're just going to forfeit the titles. I don't think they're even going to try to, do something where they have to tag together. So now Ziggler and McIntyre don't have the tag team titles. The tag team titles likely will be vacated. Rollins is the Intercontinental title holder. So is it going to be Ambrose and Rollins feuding over the IC title? Because this feels like it's either the biggest or worst case scenario, second biggest feud on Raw.
Here's, I kind of read up, and there's so many stories. Before Ambrose got hurt last year, the plan was Rollins, Ambrose at WrestleMania. Now there's talk, that they could be looking at that again, because going back to Roman, he's not going to be at WrestleMania this year. I highly doubt that. He still has to go through chemo and all, but there's no way he's going to be back in time for WrestleMania.
Certainly not in a wrestling role, I would agree, right?
Right. So if you're looking at, you want that as your main event, the question is, it has to be Ambrose going in with the belt because he's the heel with the face chasing after.
But you mean the big belt, the Universal title, right?
Yes. Yes, I think that's eventually the end game here. Now the question is how you get there. How does Ambrose get that belt? When does he get it?
What does Rollins do with the IC title?
Right. You could still do something. Are they going to wrestle each other right away? Because if you wanted to WrestleMania, that's a long time to stretch it out. And
right. How do you avoid them going at it?
You can't. At best, you could do it like 3 months. But now, how do you avoid them going at it? That's the question. You could always have Ambrose cost Rollins the IC title to get that off of him.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
And then how you manipulate things, I don't know. Survivor Series, you could kind of keep them apart in some type of Survivor Series match. So that's the next pay-per-view. So, okay, maybe that pay-per-view takes care of itself. But then what's in December? TLC, right?
Yeah.
That sounds like a pay-per-view that you would want these two to go at it. It makes sense with the feud. I don't. Maybe then after that, Rollins wins the Rumble. Somehow Dean gets a title. I don't know. There's so many different scenarios. I'm cool with it. I think Ambrose needed the heel turn anyway. He's been very quiet since he came back, too, not saying much on the mic. And,
right.
Rollins turned the first time. No, Ambrose turned. It's a little okay, we've seen this before. Is this a different person?
Well, I guess the good thing about this is they didn't completely replicate how Rollins turned with the chair to the back with Roman also there, because I thought that was so predictable that it was bound to happen. So they did it a little bit differently this time, which I think is better than kind of the corny redo of the first time they broke up. Yeah. Shield's done. I think that they're done for years and years now.
Well, and I'm actually okay with that because I feel like they've been reuniting them just to get Roman over, and there's been how many
And they didn't have the same aura as the first time around.
No, because it's happening too much. It loses everything.
So you mentioned Ambrose turning, how that might benefit him. He's now a heel. Roman's out of the picture as what was considered a face. So they're doing some flip-flopping here. You lose a face in Roman, you gain a heel in Ambrose. You need some other faces to offset that, you figure. Well, Raw accomplished that twice over. Braun Strowman, it seems like, is now back to being a full-fledged face. This is sort of lazy how they just made him a heel because it was convenient to go against Roman, and now they make him back a face, seemingly, by having him and Drew McIntyre go at it. I think that could be something pretty interesting, and I think that could be for the Universal title pretty soon. But Strowman a face, and now he's going against Brock Lesnar. Well, you know everyone's going to be cheering for Braun against Brock at Crown Jewel, so it makes sense, but I hate the idea of flipping a person back and forth on a month-to-month basis.
I agree, and then, okay, we all assume that, Braun Strowman's going to win the Universal title, which, I don't know, after Roman, dropped it like how he had to, I think I would have had a tournament. To me, that would have been more exciting than, okay, we're just going to have this singles match, because nobody wants to see Brock's champion. Plus, Brock isn't wrestling really. He's going there for the payday, so there's no way he's going to win. Braun was very hot over the summer. They did not give him the title when he was at his peak because of Roman. Then they turned him heel because they didn't want him to be the top face over Roman. And after all that, to me, it's hurt Braun Strowman. Now he's face again all of a sudden. He's going to win the belt, and while he's going to get cheered, that extra it factor, that extra oomph is gone.
Right.
So now it's going to be like, okay, you made comedic Braun. Then you made heel Braun. And now it's face Braun, but he didn't really beat Roman. He's the champ, and he won the title on a show many people aren't going to watch.
He's already squandered the Money in the Bank.
Right. It's going to be like, okay. And then I guess you're going to have him versus Drew, as the feud for the title right now, which is great, which is fine.
But it doesn't feel as big as Ambrose Rollins would be.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, that's an issue. So he's back face. We'll see how they continue to book him. I think that'll be interesting because the way that they made him face, it was sort of nuanced. Like, because you're thinking, well, McIntyre's a bad guy and he attacked Braun, so that makes Braun a good guy.
And on a side note, the Universal title, I think, is actually kind of damaged.
It's cursed at this point, right?
Honestly, look at the history. Finn, injury right away, gone. The Kevin Owens reign, while I love that he had it, he always won by cheating. He didn't hold up the title. Brock holding it for so long was a joke.
Well, you forgot Goldberg.
Goldberg, that was a joke. Then, see, I forgot that already. And then, of course, what happened to Roman is tragic. It's unforeseen. But the title doesn't hold much weight at all.
A person that would love to have a title of any sort is Elias. He's sort of been stuck in no man's land for quite some time, getting massive heel reactions each and every week. Well, what do you do when someone's getting huge heel reactions? You turn them face. So Elias goes face on Raw. He does so after wrestling as a heel, in a sense, against Apollo Crews. He beats Apollo clean, however. Then he comes out for another segment, says, I want to sing a song. For some reason, I don't understand why, because this is sort of a fallacy of logic. Corbin comes out and says, oh, no, we got to move this show along. That's not really something Corbin would do with another heel. And then, of course, Elias, hating to be interrupted, comes and smashes a guitar over his back. So I see good and bad in this. The good, you hope that this is done with a long-term plan in mind to really elevate Elias, but you're taking away a guy that got tremendous heel heat, and you hope that they don't change his gimmick too much, that it loses its great uniqueness to it.
Well, you said long-term plan. I don't think there is one. Apparently this decision was made as soon as they found out about Roman. They knew they needed some new faces, plus they knew they were turning Ambrose heel. So, to me, this is it was a spur of the moment. I don't have a problem with it. Like you said, he was getting great heel reactions. I will disagree with you somewhat. He gets cheered every single time they announce him, and he starts singing. They go with him, walk with Elias. He starts getting boos when he does the typical heel thing and he rips the city, and then they boo him. But before that, he doesn't get straight boos coming out of the...
Yeah, but not... I mean, very few guys do nowadays.
But to say he was getting massive heel heat... he was just coming off a couple of weeks ago, one of the segments that was talked about with Kim and KO, and it is kind of funny, like 3-4 weeks later, he's now a face.
And Owens sort of turned face after that, too, in a sense.
And two, maybe WWE seeing that his merch is selling decently for a heel, they turn him face, now those numbers are going to go up, which is good for him in his pocketbook and good for WWE. He still has to do the same thing And I guess his songs, instead of maybe ripping the city, he'll have something else.
He'll rip a bad guy.
Right, and honestly, realistically, where was he going right now with his character?
Well, right, I agree with that, but I think that's not because he was a heel. It's just because they sort of were lazy with this.
I would assume he's going to feud with Corbin. I mean, it looks like Corbin had the feud with Finn, and now it looks like it's going to be Corbin versus Elias.
Want to get to SmackDown real quick. SmackDown certainly was not as memorable or notable as Raw, but there's some things that stood out, and we'll sort of do a rapid fire. Aiden English and Rusev, for some reason, concluded their feud with a squash match. This, again, you said all along, Aiden English long-term is not going to probably benefit and be a guy that really comes out looking like a legitimate threat after this feud concludes. But this is just, I mean, you just basically wasted months with building up this storyline. There was some intrigue behind it, and now Aiden English probably will not be seen from for a while, and when he does come back, he's going to be useless. It benefits Rusev, but man, like, this isn't the best way to make both guys benefit from something like this, is it?
Well, English, they don't care about him benefiting.
But that's so dumb, because they're going to need a guy like him maybe 3 months from now to throw in a storyline, and he's not going to have any value. It's happened with Ty Dillinger. It's happened
all the time. I mean, Zack Ryder could show up on a given show for no reason, lose, and we'll never see him again for 4 months. I mean, that's all. I can't say much because it doesn't matter. Rusev, he's had so many ups and downs in his career. I mean, the catchphrase is over. I think he's charismatic. I think he's funny. I think he's decent on the mic.
Would you have liked to have seen this culminate with like at least a promoted main event match or a pay-per-view match?
Well, because to me the feud isn't main event worthy, and I don't think it's high mid-card worthy. Because I don't view English as anything more than a jobber. And it sucks. I mean, I think he's talented, but that's how he's portrayed to me, so I have no reason to think of him anymore. Rusev, he's done, and he'll go back to doing whatever. I mean, I don't think they have big plans for him either, Rusev.
Right, yeah, I would agree.
I think he is where he is, and that's that.
Something that did main event SmackDown, which drove me absolutely nuts, Justin, is Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy. They had a match that was as brutal as we have seen in, maybe a decade when they had that match inside the cell. And it seemed like that would be the end of it. And it, in a sense, was the end of that feud. And then they just throw them together in a regular match on SmackDown in a lazy way to promote this World Cup. I hate this. Keep those guys apart. Doesn't it diminish what they did when they just throw them into these meaningless matches on TV?
Yes, but that's lazy writing. That's all I can think of. They got nothing else. They would have been better off ending Raw and SmackDown with the women's segment, since they got a big pay-per-view coming up, and think you would want to promote that. But whatever.
So that was the conclusion of SmackDown, and Randy Orton won, and it was a perfectly fine match. Again, I just hate that idea of having those two, because I think when you do something like that, it just makes the prior blow-off to the feud less significant. Nonetheless, other things on SmackDown. Big Show is a heel, and he's now with the Bar. This sort of seems like a mismatched grouping. I don't really know what they're trying to accomplish. They need a role for the Big Show. I guess this doesn't really harm anyone, but it feels weird to me. It feels like he doesn't fit.
Why does he need to have a role? Why does he have to be on TV? He's the friggin' Big Show. This isn't 1998.
Well, he's not main eventing Crown Jewel like some of his contemporaries.
True, but at least the New Day cracked me up when they were talking about how many times he flips. And
I love that they point that out, because that's what every knowledgeable fan is thinking, and that's why you don't care when the Big Show turns. And I'm just waiting for that big smile to come back when he's a face again, because he'll be off TV in like 2 months, and then he'll come back and he'll be a good guy.
I just can't wait till he cries again.
Ironclad contract.
Yes.
We're going to get to the Crown Jewel stuff next week, but real quickly, they made the decision, WWE, and it was sort of above their head to understand, as far as if they were going to be prevented from going, it would be government or whatever. Well, they're going now. So it seems like this could really backfire.
Vince was always going to take the money. He was never not going to go. But what it's I guess kind of cool to see John Cena backed out.
And I guess Daniel Bryan as well. And those guys are both still written into big-time matches.
Apparently what I just read like an hour ago, Cena is 100% confirmed He backed out. He told him, I'm not going, which makes sense. Wrestling's part-time for him now. He's trying to be in Hollywood. He's going to gain nothing PR-wise good by going. If anything, it's going to be negative. So he's seeing the big picture for his career. Daniel O'Brien, it's being reported, he said he's backing out, but no one can confirm that yet, that he's not going to go, and that they're still trying to talk to him and going. I envision Daniel going. I don't think he has...
And he has a title match with AJ.
Right. I don't think he has the guts to back out. I think he has the stroke to back out, but, I mean, Cena can do what he wants when he wants. And I think there's other wrestlers that don't want to go, but don't have the position or the guts to tell Vince and company.
Right, and you could back out and the company will say, oh, that's your choice, but then you might not get that push that you should be getting.
Be punished. Oh, trust me, they're vindictive. I mean, we've seen many times people have been punished for something, you know. Do you think, I don't know, maybe if AJ Styles doesn't want to go, is he going to say that? He's been there for 2 years, he has the belt. He doesn't want to do that.
Justin, why... Could you have just made this basically a house show and not even really advertised it in the U.S. and put it on TV? Like, why, for Crown Jewel, the people are going to be there, maybe televise it in Saudi Arabia or maybe surrounding countries.
Because they're trying to build up, subscribers.
But now it's completely backfiring, right?
Well, it sounds like it, but...
I think if they just went over as a regular part of a tour, it would not be 1/5 the issue that it is. And you're stuck with Shawn Michaels committed, but a bad situation with that. You have all these things.
The match is on this show. Well, I mean, it ended up being a joke.
Right. I mean, the whole thing just seems like a disaster, and I think it really could hurt long term. Another thing another negative with Crown Jewel is that it has been so heavily promoted, and it's just 6 days after this Sunday's pay-per-view Evolution that Evolution is on the back burner, to say the least. And we're sort of doing the same because we got about 5 minutes left to discuss what is supposed to be a historic pay-per-view. It feels anything like it. Before we get into a match-by-match breakdown, this is a complete flop in terms of the build. Even if the matches deliver, this is not going to feel really special, is it?
No. When this was first announced, I was excited.
We thought it would be bigger than WrestleMania for the women. It's not at all.
Now it's like, I'm going to watch and hope that these girls put on great performances, but it's like whatever. I mean, the matches, there's like 2 matches that actually have got decent hype, and other than that,
which they would get for a regular pay-per-view anyway.
Right, those are the 2 title matches.
You would get that for a SummerSlam or any monthly pay-per-view.
There's nothing else. There was things that were just thrown together this week. I mean, it's a joke, and they try to act like they're so progressive and women this, women that. And the whole thing was going to Saudi Arabia, then these women being put on the back burner, and this and that. They look really bad right now.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, they needed to space these out much better. You can't promote 10 different things at once and do justice to all of them, and Evolution was really the one that suffered. Yeah. Quickly, match by match, we'll give our predictions, maybe some thoughts. This one should be good. Becky Lynch and Charlotte. It is, I think, an interesting twist to have a last woman standing. That actually has me excited because we've already seen them wrestle a handful of times. They've had very good, but probably not classic matches to this point. I think this one could be a classic, and it's at least something different. We haven't seen this on the women's side, on the main roster at least. I know they did it in NXT. Last woman standing, my prediction is you ride the hot hand. Becky Lynch keeps the title. She's the best in the company right now. I know you said that there's injury concerns. I think they'll figure out a way to get through it with her as the champion.
I want Becky to win. She is the hot hand. She should win. But I'm going to say Charlotte because I've read stuff that Vince thinks this feud has hurt Charlotte.
I'm sure he does.
And we all said that Charlotte is viewed as the female Roman Reigns. And if Vince really feels Charlotte's been hurt by this, he's going to want to change that. And
her winning the title would hurt her more. I mean, that would make her more unpopular.
You would think, but Vince doesn't see it like that. You got to think like Vince McMahon here. And
that's a scary thought.
He's so out of touch anymore. It's unbelievable. And technically, was Charlotte supposed to be the face? In his view, in their minds, she's the face. The face usually wins the feud. Like a feud like this, shouldn't the face win? I mean, logic tells you the face should win, even though Becky's basically the face, but they don't view that, so that's why I'm going Charlotte.
Ronda Rousey, Nikki Bella, no one really was hoping for this match, I don't think. That being said, it might be a decent match. I think they've done enough on social media. It's sort of late, though, that the very late turn by the Bellas, and Nikki not really being a full-time competitor makes it tough to take her as a legit threat. I think you could have picked a number of better challengers. I think Natalya would have made more sense story-wise. I said all along I would have rather had Ronda win her title for the first time here, knocking off Alexa Bliss. Or even, honestly, if they had put some effort into it, Shayna Baszler would have been a cool competitor here, because then you have a built-in storyline between those two, and Shayna is going to be a legitimate threat. That being said, Ronda Rousey should win this one, I would think, pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I don't have much to say here. Ronda's going to win. There's no way she's dropping it to Nikki. There's going to be shenanigans with Brie on the outside. I expect the match to be average at best. It's going to be more smoke and mirrors than actual wrestling match, but Ronda's going to, walk away victorious.
A match that I think I'm partially excited about, but it could be derailed pretty quickly here. Trish and Lita against Bliss and Mickie James, we think. Alexa Bliss is banged up. I think she has a concussion, and at this point, she has to clear the protocols. She could be taken out if that's the case. I think it'll be Alicia Fox, and that match is not interesting, I think, with Alicia Fox in it. It really has to be Bliss for anyone to care. I'm going with Trish and Lita. You have the Legends come back. I think they win, especially because I don't think they're going to be around after this. But this match, it could be cool. If Bliss is out, I think it kind of loses all impact.
Yeah, hopefully she can go. I mean, for their sake, without her, the match is very uninteresting. I'm going with you. Trish and Lita will win, and I think Mickie takes the pinfall.
Right.
There's no reason Bliss should be taking this pinfall. I can say that much. But it'll be a feel-good moment for Lita and Trish to get a victory and kind of ride off in the sunset again, because I'm sure after this we won't be seeing them for a while anyway.
You could have had Sasha and Bayley finally settle the score at this event. Could have been epic. Could have potentially been your match of the night, the main event. It's not happening. They're teaming up along with Natalya, thrown in there sort of haphazardly against the Riot Squad. This feels like a Monday Night Raw, 9:30 match. Instead, it is one of the bigger matches here at Evolution. Riot Squad, that's a solid team, but they're not, some legendary trio by any means, and the other three just thrown together. I am picking the Riot Squad just because they are a real team, and I think maybe we're finally going to get some dissension between Sasha Bayley and potentially Natalya. It just makes enough sense that they're not going to look like a well-oiled machine, so I'm picking the Riot Squad.
I got to go with Sasha Bayley and Natalya.
You sound so enthused about all of this.
This is. I mean, I'm just going with them. I mean, I just saw today why Sasha was off for so long. She had concussion issues, post-concussion syndrome, issues. So actually, we probably never would have got that Bayley Sasha match, because if everything would have went as planned, she would have been hurt, missed time. It probably never would have worked out. But I don't think the Riot Squad can lose and still keep their heat. And Sasha returning, I don't think they're going to want her to lose so quick after just coming back. So unless they make a turn.
But she just lost to Ruby on Raw as well.
Well, and that also makes me think that then the faces pick up the win.
Right.
Wrestling logic. The only way I think they lose if Sasha turns on Bayley or Natalya does something where she leaves the team behind.
The Battle Royal is just a terrible idea. They've done a Women's Royal Rumble. They've done a Battle Royal at WrestleMania. They're doing another one. Stipulation this time, the winner gets a title match at some point. When I asked you for your picks, you said, who cares? Who knows? This is awful. I mean, it truly is. Back to your point from last week, if it was just like legends only, or like women who aren't going to be legitimate, like week in and week out competitors, yeah, I get that. You throw in someone like Lana with these legends, that's fine. But to have some of your best women in there, including a number of former champions like Nia Jax, Asuka's in there as well, Naomi, Ember Moon, man, this is bad. I'm picking Ember because I think she has the brightest future. That being said, to your point, it really doesn't matter, does it?
No, I just went with Asuka because I figure she's the biggest name in the damn thing. And not that they already kind of ruined her once. Her with the title shot does make some sense. and Moon is also a good pick too. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not going to be any of the returning girls. It's not going to be an NXT girl. I don't think, unless they plan on promoting one of them. Well, one of those two, I think, are probably your two winners.
And the losers are the fans who wanted to see an interesting match. There's two other matches.
And I was going to say, and the girls that have to be in this, like Naomi and stuff, that probably deserve a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All women's pay-per-view, and all these girls can get is a friggin' stupid battle royal.
Right. Let's take a look at our predictions here. You can see Justin and I differ on the Lynch versus Charlotte match. We also differ on the 6-woman tag. I'm going with Riot Squad. He's going with the Ragtag Trio. I'm going with Ember Moon. You're going with Asuka in the battle royal. We both think Kairi Sane retains the NXT title. I'm picking Toni Storm to win the Mae Young Classic. You're going with Io Shirai. Yeah, you know who. One reason why I think that they will actually go with Toni Storm, as lame as this is because they had a Japanese winner last year in Kairi Sane. So I think they want to switch it up and not have that happen again, which that's kind of how this company works. Real quickly, before we wrap this one up, I think there's a lot of cool things you can do here. Whether you have Shayna Baszler somehow attack Ronda Rousey or help Ronda Rousey, something like that. Maybe you have someone come up from NXT. Yeah, they have to do something other than just have these regular matches unfold as scheduled. There has to be some sort of shocking, memorable moment, doesn't there?
Could you not set up a Survivor Series? We've been hearing the rumors for like about a year. 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen.
Yeah, but how do you do that with Nikki Bella?
Well, I was going to say too. Actually, I don't even care about Nikki. I was thinking, how can you do that with Becky and Charlotte feuding with one another? That would be very illogical. All of a sudden, they're teaming up, against Ronda and her friends. So, I mean, who the hell? Honestly, I don't think they're going to do something memorable.
I know, that's my fear. Like they could do they could make this awesome pay-per-view, and they've failed at every turn, and I think they will fail again Sunday to create. While the women are probably going to have good matches, the booking needs to do something special, and I don't think it will.
Yes.
All right, Justin. We have gone past our time limit. Any final thoughts on a crazy week here in the wrestling world?
It's a big week. It's going to be remembered for stuff that's not really wrestling related, human life related. Best wishes to Roman getting better, and if anything, the direction that WWE has now changed, and we're going to see what they're going to do with it. What's going to come of it. The next 2-3 weeks should be very interesting.
I agree with that. Reminder, once again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, 5-Star Pod Wrestle, you can check out our individual Twitter handles as well. Go on our YouTube page, like our channel, subscribe, check out all the old videos. We will be back again next week for another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. For my co-host Justin Lowery, Sean Meyers signing off. Thank you once again for tuning in to the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Have a good one.